Hi beautiful people, I hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome back to my channel. If it is your first time here, my name is Hanan and welcome to the channel. Today we're actually going to be talking about something that has been occupying my mind for a while, to be quite honest. I know that it's something a lot of us struggle with, and it's something that I've struggled with for a very long time. And what we're going to be talking about today is loneliness, that achy feeling some of us feel that swallows us whole, consumes us, and makes us feel like we are unworthy of anything. That is what we're going to be talking about today, loneliness. This last week, I want to say, no, the last 2 weeks, I've really been trying to journal how I've been feeling about this topic and where my head's been at. When I was last in Dubai, I did a video with Shahd where we talked a little bit on this loneliness and friendships and all of that. I'm going to link her video in the description box below. You can check out that video. We did touch on loneliness a little bit on there. She has some great things that she talked about as well. I kind of wanted to just expand on my thoughts a little more of how my perspective has kind of changed since that last conversation that we had and where my head is at now. So inshallah you guys find this video helpful, and yeah, without further ado, let's get this video started. I remember nights when the silence in my apartment was so loud that it was deafening. I felt so paralyzed by my loneliness. As a lot of you guys know, I moved from Toronto to the UK for marriage, and that was quite probably one of the biggest life transitions I've had to go through. Leaving behind my friends and my family and literally everything I know here to a new place was so scary. It wasn't until I arrived that I realized how difficult it really is to start all over. I felt so lonely sometimes, you guys, that it physically hurt so much how lonely I felt, but I wasn't able to really express that. I would occupy my time watching shows. I'd be on social media and see people's highlight reels. I would watch these videos and I would ask myself, like, why do I feel so disconnected? I felt like I was just watching life happen before me through a glass wall. If you're also feeling like this, I want you to know that your loneliness is not a reflection of your worth. It doesn't mean you're unlovable. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It's just a sign that you are human and you have a desire for deep connection. You have a desire for meaningful connections. It's temporary. You're not going to be in that state forever or feeling like that forever. Here's the truth that really changed everything for me. Loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about feeling unseen, feeling unheard, and also feeling disconnected from yourself. That loneliness can also be a catalyst for change. It really forced me to use that time to focus inwards and ask myself some really tough questions. What kind of connections did I really want in my life? I started to see that my time alone was not something to actually be afraid of, but really as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. That feeling, that loneliness, it's very different from just being alone. Let me break it down for you. Being alone is actually a physical state. Let's say, for example, it's a Friday night, you're in your pajamas, you're at home, you're watching a movie, really cozy, good vibes. That is what being alone is. It's a physical state. Loneliness, on the other hand, that's a feeling. It's that ache that you feel in your chest, that sense that you feel a little disconnected from the world around you. You can still feel that loneliness even when you're surrounded by other people. Being lonely, on the other hand, is when you're actually living in that feeling. It's when loneliness becomes your constant companion and it's just so clingy. It's like something that never lets go of you. It's something that sticks with you. As we know, the pandemic was a huge thing that really shifted all of our perspectives on loneliness and how we've been feeling. So many things have changed. Loneliness is not just an uncomfortable feeling. It's actually a health risk. Being chronically lonely can actually increase your risk of premature death by nearly 30%. That's the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That is actually insane. I don't know about you, but when I read that statistic, it literally floored me. I was so shocked that that is the impact of what loneliness can do on one's body and how it can actually affect your life. We are way more connected than ever before digitally. We can connect with people so quickly from all across the world just through our fingertips. But somehow, even though that's the case, we're feeling a lot more alone. When we increasingly rely on online relationships, that actually might be part of the problem. I want to talk about how we can actually reframe loneliness. Let's actually shift our perspective. What if we viewed loneliness not as actually being a burden, but as an opportunity? When solitude is embraced, it can actually be a place for new growth, but also an opportunity for self-discovery and where you can actually learn more about yourself. These are things that I've actually done for myself and actually implemented in my own life and have seen change. I genuinely struggled with loneliness for a really long time, and it was a new type of feeling. It was a new ache. It was a new pain that I had to learn how to navigate with. I learned something called the solitude practice. Every other day, I would set aside 30 minutes I know 30 minutes sounds like a lot, but if 30 minutes is too much for you, you can do 5 minutes or 10 minutes, kind of start small and then build it up to 30 minutes. The point is to try to make it intentional. During this time, you want to do something to really connect with yourself. Something like journaling, meditating, drawing, doing art, reading a book, exercising, doing stretches. It has to be something that is important to you or something that you value or enjoy. Important part here is you want to go into this stage, this 30-minute setting, approach that time with a place of curiosity and not judgment. If you have any type of negative thought that comes up, it's okay if you have negative thoughts. Just notice them when they come up. Now, when I first started doing this, it was extremely uncomfortable because I could hear all the negative thoughts yelling at me in my head. And I was like, how am I going to control this? I really tried to journal it. I tried to get it all out on paper to try to understand where those thoughts were coming from. Most of the time, this was also because I was really used to filling my time with noise. I don't know if you guys can relate, but like one thing I noticed that I do is when I'm on my phone, the TV also has to be on, a podcast has to be playing. There needs to be a book open as well. I just need noise. I need background noise. I just couldn't stand being alone with my thoughts, which is so insane to think about. But over time, I noticed that I was actually doing that to fill up that space of loneliness because it felt like I had company. When I started making time to do these intentional acts, something amazing happened. I actually started to enjoy my own company, which is why you guys see me going on a lot of solo dates. And I share when I do a lot of solo travel, it's because I actually learned about myself and love to enjoy who I am, what I do, and I just learned to love my own company. The more consistent you are with it, the more you will discover things about yourself. I got to know myself a little better, and that was simply from doing 30 minutes of intentional time for myself to better understand myself. And over time, that loneliness started to fade. Before we can truly connect with other people, we have to learn how to connect with ourselves first. How do we connect with ourselves? Like I've talked about things that you can do. How can you actually connect with yourself? One of the most profound ways to connect with yourself is actually curating self-love. Self-love isn't selfish, okay? Self-love is actually essential. It's needed. One way you can do this, for example, is starting a tradition for yourself, like going on solo dates once a week, and that solo date is just for you. This is something you put in your calendar and you make time for yourself. Maybe you go to a cafe, maybe you go to a museum, almost as if you are dating someone, but in this context, you're actually dating yourself. And just like you want to be treated well by other people and spoiled and, you know, treated like a princess by your loved one, you need to also be able to cultivate that for yourself, because at the end of the day, you came into this earth alone and you're going to die alone. You should always be your first friend before anyone. The next part is really the importance of building meaningful connections. Human beings, we are inherently social creatures. We need to talk to other people. We need to be in settings where we meet people. There's just so much we can learn from people, and that's just how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. It's in our fitrah. I had sent over a question box for you guys over on Instagram, and someone had asked a question saying something along the lines of, I only have one friend who I would consider a close friend, but I find it really difficult to make connections with people, and while I have a large group of friends, I don't feel connected to them. And when I read that, I was like, wow, little does she know that having that one friend is way better than having 10, right? Like, I think we sometimes disregard the importance of having a good quality friend, someone who deeply cares about you, someone who's there for you, someone who's there to listen, someone who supports you, over having 10 friends who don't care about you. And I think it's so important to emphasize to yourself how critical it is to have meaningful connections with people. I think sometimes loneliness actually stems from the fear of being seen, but vulnerability is actually the birthplace of connection. The next time you feel lonely, I want you to reach out to someone that you trust and tell them how you're feeling. You might actually be surprised by the depth of connection, and also surprised by the fact that you're not actually alone in how you feel. When I feel really low, or I feel like I'm consumed by my thoughts, outside of doing the things that I need to do to help repair my thinking, I do try my best to reach out to my friends or my family and let them know how I'm feeling. As you become more comfortable with yourself, you'll find that your connections with other people will also naturally deepen. Another thing I want you guys to try is something called radical authenticity. Stop trying to be who other people think you are. That is why you feel so stuck. That is why you feel so isolated, because you are living a life that other people want you to live. You are living a life based on how other people perceive you, what other people want from you, based on other people's expectations. And then you're surprised why you feel so isolated and so lonely, because you're not being authentic to yourself. You're not being real with yourself. This is something that I battled with for so long, you guys. I, for a very, very long time, was living my life. A perfect example of this is schooling, right? I knew that I wanted to go into the health sciences, but did I really want to go into the health sciences, or was I doing it because my family wanted me to go into the health sciences? Yes, I excelled in it and I worked so hard and then ended up doing my master's and all of these things, but I had to catch myself and say, am I living a life that is pleasing to other people, that, you know, my parents would be proud of, or am I doing something that is authentic to me? So I had to take a step back, and honestly, setting aside time to journal, setting aside time to understand myself better, helped me to realize that what was adding to my feeling of loneliness, what was adding to my feeling of feeling isolated, was because I didn't understand myself at all, and I was living a life for other people. So stop trying to be who you think other people want you to be. When I started being unapologetically myself, I started sharing my vulnerabilities, even though that was really scary. Started being myself, fully myself, not caring if people didn't like the way I laughed, how I looked. I don't care. I was unapologetically me. Being authentic isn't always easy. It actually requires courage. It means being okay with the fact that not everyone is going to be okay with the real you. But those who do, they will love you for who you truly are. You don't need to live your life pleasing other people. That's not why we're here. That's not our purpose in this life. When I started practicing things like mindfulness and really being a lot more present in conversations, it changed the trajectory of my relationships with people and made me feel a lot more connected, and also helped me to understand them better, understand what my friends' needs were, understand what my needs were, understand how I could be a better friend, a better partner. It allowed me to be more present and create those connections so that I could prevent that feeling of loneliness. Last but not least, I want you guys to try your best to understand that vulnerability is actually your superpower. I grew up learning that vulnerability is actually a weakness, and if you share too much, it will be used against you. You know, your vulnerability will be used against you as a weapon. But the reality is, it's actually the complete opposite. It is the birthplace of connection. When you share your fears, your dreams, your insecurities, that is when you find that it's a space of openness, and you will start to connect with people on a deeper level. My choice of sharing what it was like to lose my mother, Allah yarhamha, what that grief process has been like, now going into 9 years. And I was speaking to Adar about it. I was so nervous to hop on that podcast, and I needed to take a moment to really think about it for a little bit before I made that decision, because I was so scared to open up a can of worms, and I wanted to share my pain. I wanted to let go of my pain and release that, and also hoped that I would find other people that would relate so that I would feel less alone. Wallahi, you guys, no exaggeration, that decision quite literally changed my life. That experience quite literally opened up the door for me to be able to connect with you guys and create meaningful connections, and also learn from other people's stories. Know that I am not alone in grief, and that I am not alone in pain, and I am not alone in my struggles and my feelings. Connections that I've made with people, both online and offline, have been life-changing for me, have changed me as a person, have changed my experience with people, have changed how I view dunya, how I view my deen. And subhanallah, it was because I allowed myself to be more vulnerable, release my pain, and find those connections. It doesn't necessarily mean oversharing. You don't have to take it to that extreme and share all of your pain. It's just about being authentic with the right people at the right times. Connection isn't necessarily just about meeting people or having a busy social calendar and always going out. It's about quality over quantity. One deep, meaningful conversation can be more fulfilling than 100 surface level conversations. When I was in my early 20s, I used to think that the way to combat my loneliness was by being surrounded by a lot of people, always hanging out, always going out. I was literally out every single day. I was out and about. I was out, and I thought that that was my way of dealing with the loneliness, was that I just needed to be surrounded by people and hang out and go to these social gatherings. I often felt like I was the loneliest person in the crowd, and I would leave these gatherings feeling almost worse about myself and feeling emptier. Like I didn't feel like my cup was being filled at all. It wasn't until I decided and took the active decision to actually nurture the close relationships that I had so that I could feel more connected. I know putting yourself out there can be really, really scary, but I really believe that that is the stepping stone to getting yourself out of that loneliness that you're feeling. The most important thing that I've learned from all of this is that the way out of loneliness isn't by desperately seeking other people to fill a void. It's becoming so full of love, so full of purpose and authenticity that that connection will naturally flow out of you. Loneliness is not a flaw. It's not a failure, just a part of being human. Next time you feel that ache, you feel that loneliness, you feel that pain, I want you to take a deep breath and say, okay, what is this loneliness trying to tell me? Be curious, be kind to yourself, and remember that you're never truly alone. If this resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comment section below. I really hope, inshallah, that you guys found this helpful, that it sparked a sense of hope. And if you are really struggling, do not hesitate to seek out help if you need it, because there's strength in seeking support as well. So until next time, I love you guys so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.